The silence in the Edmonton arena was not a respectful silence. It was the sound of 3,000 people holding their breath, followed by the sickening crack of a skull hitting concrete. We watch sports for the glory, the records, and the human spirit, but sometimes the cost of a game is paid in blood. Every safety rule in modern sports, from the helmets in baseball to the defibrillators on the sidelines, exists because someone, somewhere, died to make it necessary. These are not just accidents. They are the tragedies that rewrote the rulebook.
Chapter 1. The Twilight Pitch. Baseball, 1920. August 16th, 1920. The Polo Grounds, New York. It was a gloomy afternoon. The sky was overcast, casting long, dark shadows across the diamond. In 1920, baseball was a different game. It was the dead ball era. Baseballs were expensive, so umpires rarely replaced them. By the fifth inning, a ball would be stained with grass, mud, tobacco juice, and licorice. It was soft, lumpy, and crucially, dark brown, almost invisible against the dirt infield. Stepping to the plate was Ray Chapman, the Cleveland Indians' star shortstop. He was a master bunter, known for crowding the plate. On the mound stood Carl Mays of the Yankees. Mays was a submarine pitcher. He threw with an underhand motion that made the ball rise sharply. He was also known as a headhunter, a man who wasn't afraid to brush batters back. Mays wound up. He released a dirty, scuffed ball from his ankles. It shot toward home plate, vanishing into the shadows. Usually, a batter will flinch. They will duck. But Chapman stood frozen. He never saw it coming. The sound was so loud that Mays fielded the ball, thinking it had hit the bat. He threw it to first base for the out. The umpire raised his hand to signal the play, but Ray Chapman didn't run. He took 2 steps, collapsed to his knees, and blood began to pour from his left ear. The impact had driven bone fragments an inch into his brain. Chapman died the next morning. He remains the only player in MLB history to be killed by a pitch. The aftermath. The tragedy ended the dead ball era overnight. The league banned the spitball and other doctoring of baseballs. But the most significant change is one you see in every game today: the clean ball rule. Now, anytime a ball gets even slightly scuffed or dirty, the umpire throws it out. In a single modern game, over 100 fresh, bright white balls are used, all to ensure that a batter never again loses sight of a 90-mile-per-hour projectile.
Chapter 2. The Invisible Sniper. Futsal, 2017. Fast forward nearly a century. We think modern medicine has solved everything, but some killers are silent. November 29th, 2017. Piste, Brazil. A local futsal match. The energy is high. Santos Souza, a 38-year-old goalkeeper, faced a penalty kick. The striker approached. He fired a hard shot directly at the center of the goal. Souza didn't need to dive. He stepped forward, squared his chest, and blocked the ball. It was a routine save. The ball deflected away. The crowd cheered. Souza raised his hand, high-fiving a teammate. And then, the lights went out. Souza's face went blank. He collapsed forward, his legs turning to jelly. To the spectators, it looked like delayed exhaustion. But inside his chest, a biological catastrophe had just occurred. This wasn't a heart attack. It was Commotio Cordis. The human heart resets its rhythm electrically. There is a tiny window, just 20 milliseconds long, during the heartbeat cycle called the T-wave upslope. If a projectile strikes the chest at precisely that millisecond, it doesn't bruise the heart. It scrambles the electrical signal. The heart goes into immediate ventricular fibrillation. It quivers like a bag of worms instead of pumping blood. Despite CPR and an ambulance arriving minutes later, Souza never woke up. Chapter 3. The Fatal Miscalculation. Olympics, 1912. Sometimes, it's not the equipment that kills. It's the ignorance of the era. Stockholm Olympics, 1912. The marathon. The heat was oppressive, 89 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius, with suffocating humidity. Among the runners was Francisco Lázaro, a Portuguese carpenter with dreams of glory. Lázaro was terrified of the sun, but the medical knowledge of 1912 was primitive. Athletes were told that drinking water during a race would make them weak or give them cramps. Worse, Lázaro had his own theory. To prevent sunburn and stop his body from losing vital fluids through sweat, he covered his entire body in suet, a thick, hard animal fat used for cooking. He effectively sealed his pores with wax. As he ran, his muscles generated massive amounts of heat. Normally, sweat would evaporate to cool him down, but the grease trapped the heat inside. He was cooking himself from the inside out. At the 30-kilometer mark, Lazaro didn't just faint. He collapsed with a body temperature of over 105 degrees. He was rushed to the hospital, but his electrolytes were completely unbalanced, and his internal organs were shutting down. He died the next morning. The aftermath. Lazaro was the first athlete to die in the modern Olympics. His death shattered the "no water" myth. The IOC immediately began investigating hydration. Today, aid stations with water and electrolytes are mandatory every few kilometers in long-distance races, and medical checks for heat stroke are standard. Lazaro proved that human willpower cannot overcome biological physics. Chapter 4. The Bolt from the Blue. Football, 2018. October 10th, 2018. Indonesia. The match between FBI Subang and FC Bandung was played under a darkening sky. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but the referee let the game play on. In many parts of the world, if it wasn't raining hard, the game continued. Raharja, a 35-year-old midfielder, was jogging near the center circle. He wasn't the tallest player. He wasn't holding anything metal. He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. At 4:17 p.m., the camera captured a flash that blinded the lens. A bolt of lightning carrying 300 million volts didn't hit the stadium lights. It hit Raharja. The air around him superheated to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. He collapsed instantly, his jersey smoking. The current stopped his heart before he hit the ground. The aftermath. While tragic, this incident reinforced the strict enforcement of the 30-30 rule globally. If the time between the flash of lightning and the bang of thunder is 30 seconds or less, play must stop. Everyone must seek shelter. And play cannot resume until 30 minutes after the last thunderclap. Nature does not care about the score. Chapter 5. The Machine on the Piste. Winter Olympics, 1992. Albertville, France. The Winter Olympics. Speed skiing is a demonstration sport, a terrifying event where skiers strap on aerodynamic helmets and dive straight down a mountain to reach speeds of 130 miles per hour, faster than a free-falling skydiver. Nicolas Bochete, the Swiss champion, was warming up. It was a perfect morning. He was skiing on a public trail next to the competition slope, tucking for aerodynamics. He was moving at roughly 68 miles per hour. At that speed, you cover 100 feet per second. As Bochete crested a small hill, he saw the one thing that should never be on a ski slope, a massive snowcat grooming machine. It was parked, blocking the trail. No flags, no sirens, no spotters. Bochete had less than a second to react. At 68 miles per hour, hitting a steel machine is no different than jumping off a 10-story building. The impact was instant and fatal. The aftermath. The negligence was staggering. The death of Bochete forced the FIS to overhaul how support vehicles operate. Now, during competition times, sterile zones are enforced. No machinery moves without direct radio contact with race control, and spotters are required on every blind crest. Chapter 6. The Dive of No Return. University Games, 1983. We return to the most chilling silence in sports history. The story we started with. Sergei Chalabashvili, a 21-year-old Soviet diver, was attempting a dive that many considered too dangerous, the reverse 3.5 somersault in the tuck position. It requires immense power and perfect timing. You have to jump out away from the platform while spinning backwards toward it. If you don't jump far enough out, your head comes back to where your feet started. Sergei took off. He spun. 1, 2, 3. But he opened his tuck too early. He stalled in midair. Gravity took over. As he came down, the back of his head struck the sharp concrete edge of the 10-meter platform. He fell into the water like a rag doll. The pool turned red. While coaches dove in to save him, the damage was already done. He spent a week in a coma before passing away. The aftermath. This tragedy changed the architecture of diving. Look at a modern 10-meter platform. It is no longer just a block of concrete. The edge now extends further out. And critically, the concrete lip is padded with soft, impact-absorbing material. Furthermore, the difficulty of dives is now strictly regulated based on age and skill level to prevent athletes from attempting maneuvers they cannot safely execute. Chapter 7. The Rainbow Jersey Curse. Cycling, 1971.
Finally, we have Jean-Pierre Montserrat. He was 22 years old and the world champion. He wore the rainbow jersey, the most prestigious shirt in cycling. In 1971, cycling races didn't have the closed roads we see in the Tour de France today. They took place on open roads, sometimes with traffic just pulled to the side. During a race in Belgium, Montserrat was leading the pack, head down, pushing the pace. A woman driving a car, unaware a race was happening, pulled onto the course. She drove straight toward the peloton. Montserrat, blinded by the rider in front of him who swerved at the last second, slammed headfirst into the car's windshield. He died instantly on the asphalt, still wearing the rainbow jersey. The aftermath. Montserrat's death was the tipping point. It ended the era of Wild West racing. Today, rolling road closures are strictly enforced by police motorcades. The race bubble is sacred. No vehicle enters, no vehicle leaves. And while helmets wouldn't become mandatory for another 30 years, this accident began the long conversation about head protection that eventually saved thousands of lives. Ray Chapman, Santo Souza, Francisco Lazaro. We often look at the rulebook as a list of restrictions, things we can't do. But if you look closer, it's actually a list of names, a memorial to the athletes who went to work one day to entertain us and never came home. These tragedies were horrific, but they were not in vain. They forced us to admit that the game is never more important than the life. Which of these rule changes do you think was the most critical? Or is there another sports tragedy we missed? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories about the hidden history of sports, click the video on your screen right now. I'll see you there.